This past season was a struggle for the New Jersey Devils, but one of their few bright spots was actually a goalie, Jake the Snake. Let's recap Jake Allen's season and where he goes from here. There's a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils driver for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. I have a sneaky suspicion that something big is going to happen for the New Jersey Devils. I have no inside information, but I just have a hunch that Tom Fitzgerald is going to pull a rabbit out of his hat and make a splashy move, maybe for a top-notch goalie. A lot of people are saying that the Devils are eyeing Jacob Markstrom because the asking price might be a little cheap. And Ryan Ovazinski of NJ.com, he put out on social media and also one of his more recent articles that his guess is that it might be Jacob Markstrom as well. But who are the assets that the Devils are going to give up in order to get Markstrom? Will it be the 10th overall pick? Will it be a few prospects that they don't care about? Will it be a roster player? Who do you sacrifice in a Jacob Markstrom trade or a trade in general? I've been seeing some things on social media saying that maybe Jonas Siegenthaler could be an option, which is a hint for a future episode as we're going to reflect on Jonas Siegenthaler's season and his past couple years a part of the Devils organization. But the last few days, we've been talking about different outcomes for Devils in terms of trading for a goalie. Jacob Markstrom, Linus Ullmark. I talked about Kaapo Kähkönen last month. But let's talk about the goalie that almost single-handedly squeaked the Devils into the playoffs, and that is Jake Allen, Jake the Snake. We're going to break down his overall season because I don't think I've ever done an episode in which I talked about how Jake Allen came to the Devils, what my mindset was, and how I think his future is going to be like with the Devils moving forward. And that's what I'm going to focus on today's episode. In the first segment, we'll look at his stats, his overall play style, and I'll play a few sound bites here and there. In the second segment, we'll talk about his future with the Devils. Will he be the go-to guy? Do I think that's a good option? Then the third segment, during his exit interview, he talked about getting adjusted to the Devils organization and the optimism he is feeling amongst the players and what their future is looking like. And I sort of want to talk about that in today's episode. All right, let's talk about how Jake got here in the first place. As we all know, building up to the trade deadline, the talk of the town was, could Tom Fitzgerald get a goalie for the Devils? Because that was one of their biggest issues throughout the course of the season. The experiment with Vitek Vanacek, it was going downhill. Unfortunately, he was inconsistent for most of the 2023 calendar year. If you guys recall, around February and March is when we started to see the productivity of Vanacek take a turn for the worse, and then it got on full display during the playoffs. And to start the season, it didn't look like Vanacek was all that promising. And Akira Schmid, he wasn't repeating the same magic that he showcased in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And people were just wondering, what could Tom Fitzgerald do to fix the Devils, whether it was from a goaltending standpoint or a defensive standpoint? I've always said that it wasn't pick or choose. It was just a matter of like, what's more attainable. And I said it was highly unlikely that he was going to get a high caliber goalie by the trade deadline, especially since he had to worry more about Tyler Toffoli and what his future was looking like. But come the trade deadline, Fitzgerald actually surprised me, and he got not one, but two goalies. One of those goalies was Kaapo Kähkönen. That was a chess move in order to get rid of Vitek Vanecek's extra year on his contract. Kähkönen is now a pending UFA, and that opens up a roster spot for another goalie. But the guy who is guaranteed to be here next year because he has 1 year remaining on his deal is Jake Allen. And the thing is, the Montreal Canadiens, they were trying to get rid of him for a good while. That's why they retained half of his salary. That's how bad they wanted him off the roster in my books. And what did the Canadiens get? They got a conditional third-round pick for 2025. So a low risk, but a high reward circumstance for Tom Fitzgerald. My expectations for Allen weren't really all that high because here was his competition. Kaapo Kähkönen, Nico Dawes, Akira Schmid. I was just like, okay, whoever performs best, that's going to be the starting goalie moving forward. And it's just a save face and just shake things up and take the pressure off of Schmid and Dawes' shoulders. But Allen did surprise me. Now, before I talk about his stats and compare his time with the Canadiens and the Devils, here's what Allen said about being wanted by the Devils organization. Take a listen.
What was it like for you to be able to get in the net and, play as much as you did going into the summer?
Yeah, it was good. It was just glad for me to play again. It was important, and it was a big reason why I came here. To feel me again, to feel that, I'm a good goalie in this league, and, I've had a lot of experience in good times, bad times, and can find ways, to get the job done. And, it was exciting. I was glad I got the opportunity to play, and I was fortunate they're giving me the chance to come here and play this year. And, the guys made my adjustment pretty smooth.
It's a cliche thing to say for any player that's dealt away and was struggling with their previous environment. Usually a change of scenery can do wonders for you, or being put into a new system, a new organization. It's a breath of fresh air. But Allen took it to heart, because the thing is like, I know I say that Jesper Bratt was arguably the Devils' best player. The reason I put the word arguably is because I put this out on social media. If the Devils find a way to get into the playoffs, I think you have to give a good amount of credit to Jake Allen and what he did in net. Because people were even having this debate. What could have happened with the Devils had Jake Allen been there the entire season? He was that good for New Jersey. And when looking at his stats with the Canadiens and the Devils, I would say he found himself a little bit more. While with the Canadiens before being dealt away, he appeared in 21 games. He had a record of 6-12-3. He had an .892 save percentage, a goals against average of 3.65. He had no shutouts. His goals saved above expected was minus 7.7. His goals against percentage was 112. But once he got to New Jersey, you saw him improve his game little by little. He had a record of 6-6. He had a goals against average of 3.11 and a save percentage of 900. He had a quality start percentage of 500 and a goal save above average rating of minus 1.2. You saw the change of his game once he came to New Jersey. And despite his record and maybe his save percentage not really reflecting his impact, I think if he had a decent defense in front of him, I think Jake Allen's numbers would have gone up a little bit more, because this Devils team, they were not a playoff caliber roster. They were dealing with a decent amount of injuries, but Jake Allen, he was a saving grace. And I said it in a prior episode, I was present for one of his phenomenal outings that unfortunately went to waste. It was against the reigning Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights in Sin City. And Jake Allen was keeping that game close. It was the Jake Allen show. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. If the Devils won that game, Jake Allen unanimously is my first star of the game, because that should have been a blowout in favor of Vegas. If you would have put Vitek Vanecek or Akira Schmid in it, that game is over in the first period. No debate. But Jake Allen was the reason why the Devils were still competing with the reigning Stanley Cup champions. And it wasn't just that game. There were plenty of other games in which Jake Allen put the team on his back. Unfortunately, he either couldn't get much goal support or defense support for that matter. And for that reason, that's why I say he was one of the best players on the Devils roster, despite being added at the trade deadline. If I had to have some sort of debate as to who was the best player on the Devils roster this past season, maybe I would lean towards Jesper Bratt just because he was with the team the entirety of the season. He played in all 82 games. He had an all-star caliber year. But Jake Allen, he was still up there and keeping the Devils in certain games. And I think that was pretty incredible for the low expectations I set for him. Now, we're going to talk about his role with the team moving forward. But before we continue, let me tell you about Policygenius. Policygenius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Their award-winning agents can even walk you through a process step by step. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policygenius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Get the peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Okay, before I give my opinion on the matter, here's what Jake Allen had to say about potentially being the go-to guy for the Devils moving forward. Check it out.
With some talk about, this team going to get another goaltender to maybe be the start of it. How much of that, is you saying that you want to be that guy?
It's, again, that's above my pay grade. That's what, Fitzy's here to do, and he's done a great job putting a great team together here for a long time. And, I can't really say much else. My job is to play goal. Capo, I thought, did a hell of a job here. He's a great teammate, and again, it's above my pay grade. Whoever's here next year with me, gonna try to formulate the best tandem in the league, because I truly believe you have to have two goalies to win.
Okay, Jake Allen had a good post-trade season with New Jersey, and once again, he was one of the reasons why the Devils were always knocking the door of a potential playoff spot. But the thing is I don't think he should be the go-to guy moving forward. I think the Devils should continue to find another goalie. The thing is here's what I fear. I fear that Tom Fitzgerald might go the cheap route if he cannot find a goalie, re-sign Capo Kakinen, and that's your goaltending tandem for the rest of the season. I feel like that's repeating the same mistake that he made last year with Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmid. Remember, a lot of people are forgetting that Vitek Vanacek, he was the first Devils goalie since Martin Brodeur to have a 30-plus win season, and he completely got exposed in the playoffs. If I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. The playoffs are a much different beast because you're facing the same team in a best-of-7 series, and you got to try to defeat them 4 times, which makes it a little bit hard, which is why sometimes being a good regular season team doesn't translate over to the playoffs. Just as the Toronto Maple Leafs, despite all the star power they have only gone past the first round 1 time since 2004. Or look at the New York Rangers. There's a reason why they haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1994, despite having successful years, and they were just the President Trophy winners just a few weeks ago, and now they didn't even reach the Stanley Cup final. Of course, there's the President Trophy's curse, which I don't really believe in. I think it's just pure coincidence, but digressing a little bit, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on Jake Allen, if I'm being completely honest. I think Jake Allen is a serviceable backup, and similar to what he said in the first segment, he just wants to feel wanted, and he wants to have a decent-sized role. Honestly, if he is the backup goalie for whatever goalie Tom Fitzgerald gets in the market, that's still having a decent role, because the Devils have been struggling with stability when it comes to goalies the past few seasons. In fact, they've been struggling with it ever since Martin Brodeur, Corey Schneider. They just could never find that goalie tandem to take them over the hump, and it's costed them a few times. This Devils organization, despite having the best goalie to ever play the game, they still struggle replacing him to this very day, which, believe it or not, that's actually quite incredible. And it speaks as to how great Martin Brodeur truly was. But going back to the current Devils, I think they're on to something with Jake Allen. I think they found a diamond in the rough, and I think Jake is feeling the love, and it's reciprocal amongst the Devils discourse, and you start to see a more confident Jake Allen. The stats prove it. He had a good year. But make no mistake, Vitek Vanecek, he had a pretty good year last year, racking up all those wins. And what happened? He's now with the San Jose Sharks. I believe they're the worst team in the league now. And his confidence got demolished. And I don't want the same thing to happen with Jake Allen. I think he is a very good goalie. And something that I've actually talked about with Chico Resch is just look at the way he plays the game. He just moves smoothly. And Chico sort of described it as moving like a butterfly. I guess he was using a similar analogy as Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. But that's exactly what Jake Allen was doing. And I was present for that Vegas Golden Knights game in which he was using his paddle to break up plays and make sure that the momentum didn't go the way of the Vegas Golden Knights. And it wasn't just that particular game. It was the rest of the season. I was rather impressed with how Jake Allen wasn't afraid to use his paddle, use his skill to poke the puck away and prevent a shot coming his way. I think that really speaks volume as to what Jake Allen has potential to do. And he's been on a team that's won the Stanley Cup before, and that goes a long way too. Don't underestimate that. That's why having veterans like Andre Palat, Eric Haula, Brendan Smith is so important, just because that veteran leadership is vital. And it goes a long way for the young guys like Heischer, Hughes, Bratt, who haven't done that much winning in their careers up to this point. They've had some success like last year, but just having someone who's gone the distance or someone who's been on playoff caliber teams before, it's always a good plus to have in the locker room. And I think Jake Allen is well respected amongst his peers. Now we're going to talk about his adjustment to New Jersey momentarily and how he spoke about his teammates. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about Game Time. Last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. All in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views. Get a good view of your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, here's what Jake Allen had to say about this Devils team and getting adjusted to this environment. Take a listen.
What are you anticipating and excited for, come next year?
Yeah, it was, for me, it was coming here, playing, getting acclimated with the group, the guys, the little things away from the rink are almost sometimes the bigger adjustments than actually on the ice. But, I think there's a lot of optimism here. There should be. Obviously, we know what type of team we can be. We've seen it through the, small stretch that I was here, and obviously from afar, from my perspective in Montreal the last couple of years. And that's the way I think we should approach is a lot of optimism. We all want to put our work boots on and make sure to find a way to get a little bit better this summer and come in prepared in training camp, healthy, excited, ready to play, the right way. And I've been in this league long enough. The same team never comes back, so there'll be new faces. But just come excited. Learn to take this opportunity to realize what it's not fun not being in the playoffs. Watching all these teams play this weekend and next weekend, should give us some motivation.
Once again, Jake Allen has been on a team that's gone the distance before. And the fact that he is optimistic about this Devils team, despite not being on the roster for even a year, like I've been saying on this show, the Devils will be just fine, which is why I think Tom Fitzgerald is well within his right to go big game hunting for somebody as long as he does it in a smart manner. I really do want to see this team go the distance, and I think Jake Allen is seeing that right before his eyes, and I'm glad that he's optimistic about this team because the Devils, based on their history the last decade or so, it's easy to see why people are a little pessimistic about it and why people have their doubts heading into the new year. But I think this team is definitely going to go places, and getting Jake Allen on this roster, diamond in the rough, but just utilize him correctly. Don't overwork him. Don't ask too much. I think for Jake Allen, as long as he feels welcomed, as long as he feels accepted, and as long as he has a decent-sized role, I think he is definitely going to play a big part as to how the Devils are going to turn around their season come next year. Jake Allen has been phenomenal, and I'm running out of adjectives to describe it, making big-time saves and just giving the Devils some hope going down the stretch of the season in which things were looking a little murky. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think about Jake Allen and what he brought to the Devils organization? I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.